You obviously know there are areas of the law, employment law and otherwise, where policies and enforcement changes from federal administration to federal administration, and what businesses need to do will change in turn. Harassment law in 2019 is not one of those areas, it seems clear. The obvious example in the employment law area where there are changes administration to administration is under the National Labor Relations Act, the NLRB, the composition changes. There are lots of areas that tend to go back and forth depending on whether it is a Republican or Democratic administration. Not seeing that in the harassment area or the discrimination area generally. Most recent reminder, I've got an article here, a couple of cases filed, harassment allegations in California filed by the EEOC on behalf of employees. And that's not an unusual occurrence. Get one of those articles or EEOC-driven settlements on harassment issues on a regular basis. So why is that I don't think we can relax at all? Because in an administration that may tend to be less pro-employee, and that's not a political statement, that's an empirical observation of how these things tend to go. Number one, it takes time for policies to get from the top level down to the investigative level in the field, so to speak. And so in lots of areas, the EEOC investigators, even if the EEOC itself is changing sort of policy emphases or how fast things move, the investigators often tend to be doing their job pretty similarly year to year, and we see that anecdotally fairly often. Secondly, discrimination law generally does not tend to contract. If you look at the history over since, say, the Civil Rights Act of 1964, Title VII, the number of protected classes tends to increase. Don't tend to see that contract. Not saying there aren't examples of it. Of course there are. But it doesn't tend to have, say, the back and forth that some areas of the law tend to have. And of course, last, with the Me Too era into our well into its second year, politically, it seems there's a consensus, I think, that this is not an area that anybody's going to try to roll back. So the EEOC is alive and well. It seems to be enforcing what it believes to be violations of the harassment law. In fact, it publicizes that and seems to be doing more of it since Me Too began. So employers need to remain vigilant. Don't get the sense that there's any relaxation for you in this area.